It is an MOU. Is that what it is? It's in a status right now as an MOU?
It's a contract, and it's in the final two signatures that are required, and it'll probably be done today, if not tomorrow.
Okay, so next month that will not be on our list of things that we're going to be looking at. It'll be already a done deal.
I'm going to leave it on there because we making quarterly payments to the chamber. So as the payments go out and are reflected in the available funds, then I'll reduce the amount on the contract. I wanted to leave that in there so it has a reflection in it becomes encumbered, put it that way.
Okay, all right.
So everybody knows what the balance is of available funding for the projects.
Good. All right. Like I said, I need clarification. I know things have deadlines, and I just want to make sure that we are within those deadlines and money is being allocated where it's supposed to, and then is accountable. Because I keep seeing it on all of these 3 months that I have in front of me, and I'm just trying to clear things up here. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, the only discussion I had, I was going to bring it up in new and other business, but since it's here, I just wanted to make clear. I think we approved the funding for the Visitors Guide as part of the budget, but I don't think we ever made, as a Lodgers Board, ever a decision to contract with the chamber. That did not go through the Lodgers Tax Board. I just wanted to be clear. We did approve a budget. I believe what was happening was it was in-house, but the portion of where it was the decision to contract with the chamber was made by the city outside of the Lodgers Board. So I just wanted to make that clear.
So we have to backtrack. The city, all of us have to backtrack, and we have to approve funding for the chamber. Is that it?
I don't think so. I just wanted to make it clear that we approved a budget for the Visitors Guide that was approved by us. The city's made the decision to contract that out. That's about it. I just want to clarify.
The visitor center is funded under, through lodgers tax through the city. And then we have elected to use the chamber to operate the visitor center instead of us manning the visitor center. It is saving some money on lodgers tax expenses by doing so.
There we go. So,
okay. So it needs to be identified for our purposes too, because that was another question that I was going to ask. But for bringing that up, thank you.
Right. In the past, it was just deducted from the balance, and it was probably invisible to you. I've just put it on there so you're seeing the same numbers that I'm seeing from the finance department. Okay.
Can I jump in on that one? I just know I can understand where Georgina's coming from, because anytime you have a transfer of funds, you usually have to get those approved, especially if to let the Lodgers Tax Board know it's going from one entity to the other, especially if it's going from within the city to outside the city. I'm not sure if you guys have changed those, but that's something that you might want to think about.
Okay.
Thank you for that question.
So we've clarified it, and then in the future maybe we can address it if there's questions on that, on how that arises. But I just I had some questions on it myself, so I just wanted to make sure that we clarified how things happen. So I think we can move forward now that we know what the sequence was. All right. Any more questions on our discussion on the finance report?
Yeah, I do. Wayfunding. They're asking for another $26,000. What is it that what's the purpose of that?
I think they're here to present on that. They're here, right? Bill and Chuck to present the second portion, or we had it in our packet.
It's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda. Let's address it when it comes up on the agenda.
Right?
Okay, thank you.
All right, so any more discussion on the finance report itself? All right. Moving on. Now we have public input.
I had nothing.
Okay. Moving on to the agenda, we are on approval, disapproval. Main Street of Las Vegas is making a request for an additional $26,000 in lodgers tax funding for wayfinding. That would bring the total we have to $52,000, which is about enough to fabricate and install the first 7 signs. And I'm sure there's somebody here to. All right, go ahead, John. We probably need to unmute him. John, you're. Do we have John muted on our end, or he's muted himself on his end?
He's muted on his end. I can't take it off.
Okay. I think he's talking but doesn't realize we've.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So, what are the questions? I mean, we're installing 7 permanent signs, and it's a major installation, and it's going to cost about $52,000 to do those 7 signs. Georgina, I can send you we have the construction ready plans that we've sent to City Council, and we had a presentation at City Council. We also had one for the Lodgers Tax Board, and I'm happy to send you those plans so you can see what's involved, because it's a major project. They're permanent signs.
Yes, I would like to see those papers. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I mean, just to be clear, the first phase was the design portion of it, right? With the architecture. Now
Right.
Now this second phase is we're actually paying to build actual signs, right?
Right. They get fabricated and then brought in and installed, and it's expensive to do that. But this project has been worked on for the past 10 years, and seriously in the last 2 years, because we've been working with Surroundings in Santa Fe, and they've been here and they brought drones here to shoot the sites, and so it's been planned really well, and we're ready to install them.
Okay. How'd we come up with exactly another 26, or did we just divvy up the total?
We were always asking for more. It wasn't ever going to be 26,000, but there wasn't. We came in like with a partial and then another partial to actually do it, and especially once we got the construction ready documents, we realized how much it would be.
Okay.
Based on an estimate, actually. But I'll send that out to everybody so that you see it. And I would love for you. I sent out to a bunch of people today an image of all the signs and the different sizes, and also the placement of the signs. So I'll send all that out again.
And we still need to go out for bid on this, so it's still just a shot in the dark right now, what it's going to cost to do the first phase.
Okay. So, I mean, I know with everything with COVID and everything, but is there a way where, I mean, now that we're rolling with this, that we can have, a ballpark of the complete project costs so that we could start planning for other phases, or we know what the complete project's gonna be?
Well, and this project is the complete project of this first part, right? So they haven't gone out. I mean, if we got more money, they would go out and they would do mills, and they would put the hot springs, and we would do those signs. But this is just the first 7, which basically direct you to the train station, the visitor center, the plaza, Highlands. So when we put out the RFP, we'll get an idea of what the actual cost is.
Okay.
But we're in the ballpark with 52,000.
Got it. Got it. All right, and then, this question's coming. So that that signage on Grand Avenue, if you're going southbound to direct you towards downtown, towards Carnegie, that sign right there, was that ever added into the plan?
The sign you're talking about the sign that's at University and Grand?
Yeah, but it would be before that.
In terms of what the signage was,
Right.
I can go look and see. I know we're taking the sign we're proposing on Thursday to take the sign that's at University and Grand and move it to the entrance to the plaza. And that's a whole other thing that's going to come up.
Okay.
But in terms of the sign you're talking about, I'm not sure which sign that is.
Well, so anybody traveling, southbound if they're already on Grand Avenue, they're traveling southbound. With the current signage, they would basically be going in a circle or a square, half square back to, they'd have to make, instead of just making a single right, they would be making two rights and then a left with the current signage. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why I kept saying about that for the people traveling southbound. It's just one sign would connect them right into the signage that we would have,
Right.
instead of making them go in a circle.
Right.
So that's easy to solvable. I just want to remind you that let's try to get that incorporated. It just makes sense.
Okay, and when I send the little chart that shows the placement of the 7 signs, look at that closely too to see how
Okay.
it addresses what you're talking about.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Any other discussion on this item?
Real quick, John, I'm looking at something here with the actual signage that you have on there with the arrows and the districts and so forth.
Mhm.
Are any of these, how many, I don't know if you can answer it or not, but how much of this will be try and be done by some of our local people who work in this type of metal?
Well, the only place locally that we know is Highlands, and we actually talked to Dr. Minner and Highlands about fabricating the signs, but they don't have the ability to fabricate the signs that have been designed, and they couldn't do it. So it'll be put out for bid.
Moonlight Welding doesn't do that?
Excuse me?
I thought there were welding facilities up there on Railroad.
Right, but so Georgina, let me send you the signage and you can look at that. It's not something that can be done here. There's a company outside of Mountain Air. There's a company in Southern Colorado right on the border. There's like 3 or 4 companies that can do this correctly. But I'll send you that so you see it and see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And we already, we had 2 community meetings where the community voted on the signs and the color of the signs early on. So the communities had a lot of input. There's not a place here that could fabricate those signs.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you later about that. I'd like a little more information.
If you have an
All right,
idea, they should definitely come in on the RFB and they can be looked at. That would be great.
Thank you.
All right.
So if somebody can, they're still going out for bid. So if
Right.
there's somebody that's capable of building it, I assume that they could put in a bid.
Absolutely. Anybody can put in a bid. So
All right. Any more discussion? Okay. I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the 26,000 that they're asking.
Second.
All right. Roll call.
Georgina Ortega Angel,
Yes.
Alan Engel,
Yes.
Chick Buckton.
Yes, and I just want to note that Shauna is in the meeting now.
Oh, sorry,
Just note
and
that.
Shauna. Yes,
we can't recognize it.
it's me.
All right. So motion passes. Now we are on to approval, disapproval of the Las Vegas Citizens Committee for Historic Preservation. Connect Las Vegas Mobile Guide to Historic Sites for $7,000. But I know you had a couple, some questions last time, Georgina, and I think, yeah, Frank is here. Questions.
Yeah, can I ask everybody,
Your mics, please.
Trying to figure out how to.
if everyone can mute their mics except the one speaking? Thank you.
I can't figure out how to mute my mic.
Do the opposite, that you turned it on.
Okay.
Did we lose Crew Tech?
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, so maybe we could start with from Frank. I think one of the questions was the change up was changing what was requested before it was to purchase the license. Now it's more of a support request. So maybe just starting with that, Frank, if you want to on the change in request there. You're up. There you go.
The license, as you mentioned, the license, the first year's license and the software setup are all paid for. And I'm also, the Google Play application has been filed and it'll soon show up on Google Play. I'm waiting for Apple to finally verify a couple of things, but it'll be available on iTunes within probably the next couple of weeks. The application, we've got a lot of basic content in it that CCHP had already developed, and some of that content's also on the city site, and that includes stone architecture, a little bit about movies shot in Las Vegas, and a couple of things on murals. But we're in the process of adding a lot more content, and the original proposal included $2,000 for graphic design, and that's primarily to clean up the look and feel of it, to make it a little more professional, or at least get a graphic designer to take a look at it and give us some suggestions. There's also $2,500 set aside for promotional material and training some of the local businesses so that we could put a sign at the motels and at businesses to encourage people, if they want to find out where things are at in Las Vegas, download the app, and it gives, you can download it on Android or iPhone at specific locations. And we're anticipating a fair amount of print promotional material around, in addition, obviously, to Facebook and other digital sites. The content collection, we've allocated $3,000 on that. I just recently purchased a scanner that can do optical character recognition, so we can begin to take some of the print material at CCHP and start digitizing it. That's going to be a long-term project because there's an enormous amount of content in print at CCHP, and by using a scanner, we'll be able to both digitize images, but also try to get a lot of the text that is in historical documents and make that more readily available, not only for the mobile app, but also for CCHP's website and the Facebook page. So there was a total beyond the license that we had an original proposal of $7,500 that's basically to clean up the application graphically, add content, and promote.
Okay.
Frank, question. Once you get it established, everything cleaned up and everything going, who will be maintaining that as it progresses, as it goes on? Because you will be adding or changing things as time goes on. Who will be doing that?
The application is CCHP's, and it's under CCHP's responsibility as the developer of it and owner of it, maintainer of it. It would be CCHP.
So then they will not be coming back to us again for more funding to do additional things on this application. They will be now, since it's theirs, they're in control of it, they're responsible for any of the maintenance, anything that they're going to add on to it.
Well, I think we have to look at the underlying purpose of the mobile application is to provide tourists with a guide throughout the city to be able to identify and find sites of interest, historical, cultural, and architectural. With that in mind, I have no idea in the future what kind of promotional programs that we might come up both at the city or at CCHP or Main Street or Las Vegas First. As an example, the Bicentennial of Santa Fe Trail is next year, and it's going to be a major event all across locations on the Santa Fe Trail. To date, I haven't seen any organizations within the city identifying the Santa Fe Trail Bicentennial as a potential heads and beds event. Given the expected hundreds of thousands of tourists that the Santa Fe Trail organizations are expecting. The application is designed to add content not only for CCHP, but it would blend perfectly with any promotional tourist activity that the city's interested in or organizations are interested in. And likewise, any potential application of the mobile phone app to other promotional activities could either be self-funding or it may fit perfectly within the lodger's tax to be something that the lodger's tax and the city want to get involved in as well. So I have no idea what the future holds, but I certainly wouldn't say the CCHP is responsible for here on forward when it really is a public application.
So the hope is, I think when we originally, first started talking about it, is that we could, if it goes well for CCHP, that this is something we could grow. And that's what my original thoughts were with who has the license, but that's fine. I think Lodger's Tax is helping to get this off the ground. Hopefully it's successful, and that fits our digital end to match with some of the physical things we just approved. So using that app along with now new signage that we're building, wayfinding signage, I mean that's going a long way towards things we've really never developed. Or not, in a while anyways. So the hope is that he's successful with that app and maybe other entities can take what CCHP's done and make this grow.
Mr. Chair, I think, Frank, is there a possibility, you said maybe self-funding, and this is one of the reasons why the city didn't really want to have their hands on it, because there's a capability of selling some ads that could help, maintain the app. So it'd be better in, belonging to a particular organization where we wouldn't run into other issues by the city trying to sell ads and advertising space and stuff like that.
Sure.
So,
and that'll come later. I mean, we'll just have to, at that point, we'll just have to figure out how entities would coordinate. At this point, they'd have to, if you're going through a single license, they'd have to go through CCHP, but that's further down the road. Let's see what CCHP does with this, and I'm excited to see the end result, and then we can discuss on how we can further improve on it. All right. Any other questions on this item or discussion?
No, I'm fine with it. This is Georgina.
Okay. All right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All right, roll call.
Shawna Sandoval,
Yes.
Georgina Teiva-Anjan,
Yes,
Alan Apel.
Yes.
Okay, we have a first and a second, motion passes.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, this is Alan. I'd just like to say, Frank, thanks so much. I know that you guys have put in an enormous amount of volunteer effort to make this happen, and I think it'll pay really big dividends for our community. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thanks to the Lodgers Tax Board for the support of it. I'd also like to mention CCHP is going through a significant transition. Doyle and Rudy and Jeannie all are 100% behind moving CCHP aggressively into a digital world. And with that, they're reaching out and looking for new board members that bring both knowledge of history of Las Vegas, but also an aggressive approach towards taking advantage of the power of history and culture that Las Vegas brings as a cultural tourist destination. I think that's an untapped resource right now. So this is just the beginning of some things that we're working on.
Oh, very exciting. All right. Now we're on to C, approval, disapproval of Hermit's Peak Watershed Alliance Guyanas River Park Collaborative, 19,900.
do you have somebody to speak on
Yes.
that a little bit?
Hello. This is Paul Stagner. I'm here to represent the Guyanas River Park Collaborative and the Hermit's Peak Watershed Alliance. Do you have questions, or I'm not sure what I'm expected?
Maybe just a refresher for everyone, just a quicker overview of the project. I know we've had some things in our packet, and we had a presentation some time back, but maybe just a refresher on what we're approving today.
Okay. We are, I'll kind of give you a little bit of background where we are right now. We're working right now with Groundwork Studio, a landscape architecture firm from Albuquerque, to develop a working plan for the park, the river park, from Mills to Prince. And this project should be completed sometime in the late fall, early winter. What we're asking for right now from the Lodgers Tax Board is some funding. This plan will be specifically about park amenities, everything from trash cans to the amphitheater. And we're asking for funding right now, $20,000, I believe. And it is primarily for benches and for one more of our interpretive signs, which are geared toward the river ecosystem, the history of the river, the history of the acequia system, etc. They will be spread out along the river. We have 2 so far, and are planning on a lot more. So it would be 8 of the benches and 1 of the interpretive signs.
Will any of that new signage be on the other side of the river?
I think there's plans for both sides. Yeah, I don't know specifically what sign they're talking about for this this request. Beth Wateros and Aaron Wateros are working on that right now. But yeah, there will be signs on both sides as best we can, keeping in mind that everything north of Bridge Street between Bridge and Mills is private property. So we only have that section south from Bridge to Prince on which to place signs.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then I know before I stayed on this, we weren't sure if we had the budget to address this, but with the other agenda item with this EDA grant, this becomes more doable for us for what we're doing. So that's why we could address it and add this to the EDA grant that we've been talking about.
Yeah, this would, as I said, this would be just a part of the overall amenities. We have another project that's starting, the River Stewards grant of $465,000 that will complete the so-called rewinding of the river from the second footbridge to Prince. That will be, contracts have been awarded. We're in the permitting phase right now, and if permitting goes according to schedule, construction will begin probably in October on that section at the south end of the park. And then when we have the working plans in place, then we can start with the fundraising. We got the $230,000 appropriation from the legislature this past legislative session for that's earmarked specifically for the amphitheater and playgrounds. I don't think it will cover all of that, but it's to begin funding for the amphitheater and playgrounds, which will be somewhere in the area fairly close to Bridge Street, south of Bridge Street. But then, as I said, there are numerous other aspects that have to be covered that will be needed for the park amenities, the benches, the picnic tables. We've done a fundraising and have raised money for trash receptacles. Those will be installed, I think, within the next month. They've been completed. A local firm has fabricated those, and they will be installed actually by the Parks Department. They stepped up and gave us a great savings on the installation, so it allowed us to purchase another trash receptacle that we didn't initially have funding for. So, and then there are other issues like landscaping. There's quite a lot of other parts of the park amenities that will have to be funded. So this is a piece of that puzzle.
Okay. I mean, the hope is that eventually, as we build some of this out, that we could build events and promote tourism with what we're doing here. So hopefully that's something we can do. Now, in the grand plan of things, and I know that's been a problem with the Riverwalk there, is addressing specifically, I mean, not even maintenance, but vandalism. So building in, and I guess this would be a city question as well, is building in, I guess, insurance, vandalism insurance, or any of those. So where we building these benches, we're putting out these signs. We want to make sure that they're maintained and they're not in bad disrepair, graffiti 5 years later, and we don't have the funding or we didn't have the insurance in place to to repair and replace anything that got broken.
Well, yeah, that's something that's foremost in our minds. Another aspect of park amenities are barriers. We have 5 entrances to the park that need barriers to prevent vehicle traffic. The park is supposed to be restricted to no motorized vehicles, but at present and for years, it's been used by ATVs and dirt bikes, etc., and even big motorcycles driving down the path. We need barriers to block those, but they have to be of a specific type because it has to be ADA accessible, and it takes a special design to be able to do that. We had a presentation last month in our steering committee with the people from Groundwork Studio, and they presented a half a dozen different designs that were really interesting. Steel constructions that were very decorative. Some could also serve as bike racks, but they could be used as barriers at those locations where the motorized vehicles come into the park. Another thing that we've noticed, and this is maybe wishful thinking, but we've had interpretive signs that were put up by a project between West Las Vegas Schools and the Santa Fe Community Foundation about 2 years ago. The students did all the basic research and designed the signs, and those have never been vandalized. We're noticing that there's maybe a certain level of pride that's being expressed because people are just leaving things alone that we've put in place. But at the same time, like with our trash receptacles, they're almost indestructible. We did a lot of research, and they're very well constructed. So those kinds of things with the benches, that was another part of the steering committee meeting that we had in July, looking at various designs. And that's always one of the first considerations is, coming up with a design that can't be easily vandalized or set on fire. I mean, we would like to have a lot of naturalistic wooden benches, etc., but that's something we have to take into consideration. We're looking at using a lot of natural materials, logs, boulders, etc., that don't often lend themselves to vandalism. So, that's something that we already are considering.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion?
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I'm just gonna advise the committee that the board that I have to look at the budget, but with this project, if it's approved, we'll probably just have to look at making some adjustments from promotional down into infrastructure, because this is more of an infrastructure type project. And so the balances aren't there right now, but I have to look at the budget as well. So just
Right.
so you know. Okay.
Yeah, I was looking at it as a budget standpoint too, and that's why I mentioned it didn't seem like something budget-wise what we set that we could fit. But since we started talking about EDA, I figured we can move things around so that we can get some of those matching funds with the EDA grant.
Right. Well, if Mr. Slick is successful, then it wouldn't be an issue, of course. But but the funding is there anyway, I believe. So it shouldn't be an issue either way.
Right. So yeah, I guess part of the approval today is us also approving. Because it is an infrastructure item that we're moving some money around to pay for additional infrastructure.
I have a real quick question. The agenda, it says approval for 19,900, and last month's agenda, it was for 20,000. So which one is it? Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I want to know because it's going to reflect in the minutes. So I want to make sure we're staying the same. And in the discussion with the gentleman, he said 20. So I made a note and I went back and looked at my last month's notes and minutes, and it's got 20, so that's where he got the 20. But it's 19,900 on this agenda. So can you just clarify that for me? I mean, I like the idea. I just want to get clarification on the exact price.
I mean, just to get this moving forward, we'll stick with what's on the current agenda. I'm assuming it was some type of amendment. It doesn't seem to be a huge amount, so we can stick with what's on the agenda. And if everybody's okay with that, we can entertain a motion and move forward.
Okay, thank you. I just needed to make sure because I don't want it to come back and bite us in the butt, even though it's just a small amount, but it's still something that we are approving and it has to match.
Right.
Georgina, I seem to remember this came up in the past, and anything under $20,000 could get approval in a quicker, more simple process. I think that's the reason, but I'm not sure. I would move to approve at 19.9.
And I would second that.
All right, roll call.
Georgina Ortega Angel,
Yes?
Shauna Sandoval,
Yes.
and Alan Latham.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
motion passes. Okay, moving on to approval, disapproval of EDA grant. A little confused because I thought as a board, we've already approved, but maybe we need more clarification on the approval.
The way it happened was the last time this came before the board, it was moved from a discussion, new and other business. You all voted to move it up to the first agenda item, and you voted on it, but it wasn't for a vote. It was simply for discussion under new and other business.
Okay, so this is the official. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Do we have any other discussion or questions on the EDA grant?
Is Wood here to answer any questions?
Wade is always here. He's going to answer all the questions you need.
Are you there, Wood?
Wid, you're talking, but you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I hit some button and I can't see any of y'all anymore. I'll just do a couple of sentences because we have gone over this before. But the EDA potential is to leverage larger tax allocations. Y'all have made 4-to-1 if we're successful. And it is a regional application for the northeast of New Mexico. And I am waiting for the official city council signing off because we can't even submit without the city being the fiscal agent to reach out to the other counties. But I have talked to a few, and we're going to have plenty of support. So I'm open to questions.
Wood, what was the original, when you came to us the first time, what was the original quote that you gave us? Because then it changed. You added more to it. So I just want to go back. I'm going through my 3 months of notes and I'm trying to find it. But if you can just, if you remember, what was the original?
Well, y'all, the lodger's tax board isn't being asked to fund anything for the EDA grant application itself. Where things change is as you choose to fund additional qualified projects like CCHP's mobile app, the Riverwalk, E. Romero Museum, all of those add to the match and increase the amount that Las Vegas can apply for. So it's a moving number.
Okay, but just give me the first number that we started off with then. If I'm looking,
Have no idea.
but
So what it sounds like, Whit, I mean, most everything that we've approved, you know, as a board that we see encumbered in the finance report, all of that is going to be in the grant, right?
99%. Yeah.
Hey, Wade, can you talk about is it still going to be a collaborative application with other counties?
Absolutely. Potentially 7 counties, though I don't have all 7 yet saying they want in.
And when's your deadline?
There is no deadline.
Okay.
The money is allocated first come, first serve until it's gone. So I am trying to get our application in as early as possible so there's still money left.
Okay.
Is there, as far as the grant goes, is the city contributing outside of, I mean, this is what we're contributing through lodger's tax, but are you working with the city outside of lodger's tax and that's also going to be part of this, or it's just with any other county with the county that you would?
A good question. I haven't gone to the city for any other sources of funds. Lodger's tax is the grant is to recover the tourism economy through infrastructure and marketing. So lodger's tax is the logical source of match.
Okay. But as far as what we could approve through lodger's tax, I think we've done it now before your own deadline that the council can approve. So we're at the end of what we can do because we've just done it today. Whatever we could approve so that you could put in the EDA grant there, unless you get delayed somehow. I'm not sure of any other projects that we could put in for the match, but that's it looks like we've done everything as a board to get you things that you can put in for the grant.
The one other thing, again, since we don't know exactly when the application will go in, the one other thing that may come to you in time might be a proposal from Highlands Media Arts to provide the design services for the EDA marketing campaign. But that's an up in the air. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion?
so then we just have to wait for this to go to council first then, correct? On this, they're going to be the ultimate decision.
Yes, and I mean, basically, everything we do as a board, I mean, we make our recommendations. Council is the one that approves everything.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I would approve that we recommend proceeding with the PDA grant.
And I'll second that.
All right. Roll call.
Alan Nathan,
Yes.
Kayla Unham, Shawna Sandoval.
Yes.
So there's a first and a second. Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Okay. We've got a presentation, skate park advocates, skate park master plan design, Virginia Marula.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. So we're bringing back the skate park design. I have Josh Willis here with us. Hi, Josh. Thank you for joining us. What we're doing is, a while back, you had tabled, as a board, you had tabled the skate park advocates and agreed that we were going to fund the first part of it, but we needed a location for that before we could move forward on anything. It was the last piece we needed before we could do anything with that skate park. So what we did is we did have somebody who is willing to donate a piece of land, but in the meantime, while they were handling the paperwork on the land, we did have something come from executive office saying that we could move forward with Rodriguez Park. So we all got together and with the skate park advocate, with Brian and Diane and all of them, and they couldn't be here today. But what we did is we got together and we all agreed that it would be a good one. And they also agreed it would be a good place to start the big one. And then from there, once they get the paperwork done for the smaller one in town, and then this would just help start a chain of different, not only skate parks, but bike parks or whatever kind of outdoor activities we can provide for the kids. So for those of you who are new on the board, this has been going on for a very long time. It's been going on for many years. And just real quick, let me pull this up so that you can see. This is back in 2014. And this is even after they started working as a nonprofit organization and getting everything together. And then of course, they did move on, and all these kids would gather at the skate park at the rec center, which they had available to them. So they did have competitions and they had a lot of things there. They were, again, Las Vegas skate park advocates really pushing to get an actual skate park. This was a small one that they did good, but as we go through this, you'll see the reason that they were having these competitions and fighting for a new skate park is because eventually this one started falling apart. And so when they're coming in to caution tape all over. And again, this was back 2013, 2014. And luckily enough, Josh and his company have been nice enough to stick with the skate park advocates and these youth. And at the time, they were youth riding around on the Plaza Park and having a great time out there. And now they're older. And I don't know if maybe some of them have their kids out there now. So this is an ongoing thing. And we finally got executive to agree with Rodriguez Park. And so we're bringing it back to you. I was hoping that it would go for approval or disapproval so we could move on to with council to get that approved since it was tabled the last time. But since we are in presentation, I figured I'd bring Josh along to give you an idea of what he's been doing with them as well. So Josh, I'm going to give it off to you.
Sure. I'll switch to presenter here. I think you can see my screen now here, I believe. And so, thank you, Virginia. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for having me. My name's Josh Willis with American Ramp Company. And I saw Bill Hendrickson was on this call. So in 2015, Bill and I were chatting about the need for a skate park. And then in 2017, I connected with certain individuals from the nonprofit and the skate group, Brian and Diana. And then in 2019, we came out and met with them as well as Virginia and some others. And we visited 2 or 3 different sites, and Rodriguez Park was one of those sites. And so we visited that site there. And just west of the baseball fields, there's a lot of acreage available for a newer, kind of more upgraded current skate park. The existing skate park that Virginia shared some photos with, that it was built in 2005. And so that is 15 years old. Since then, there's been a lot of new developments and trends in the skate park industry, and a bunch of different new styles and competitions. Street League being one of those, which is like a urban plaza style competition, like planters and stair sets and handrails and things like that. Most excitingly, probably is the Olympics. And next summer in Tokyo, for the first time ever, skateboarding is going to be in the Olympics. So that's never been before, and so that's very exciting. And I'm predicting that there'll be a new surge and a new generation of skaters to come back out to local community parks and needing a place to ride, and that existing setup there is smaller and needs some love, but we just need a larger skate park for the community. So in addition to skateboarding, also freestyle BMX cycling is going to be an Olympic sport, first time ever, next year in Tokyo. And freestyle BMX, it's more like trick style, and so you'll have those two different things. Potentially, being in the Olympics and potentially creating a big demand in the community. And so what Virginia and Brian and Diana and some of us have chatted about is, let's meet with the community and do a design community engagement to see what this new generation wants to see in a skate park / bike park. And so what we're really thinking is a hybrid type of facility, not just a skate park, but also a facility for bikers as well as scooter riders. And so this is just one example of such a facility. Virginia had mentioned a local individual, let me pull in some photos here, who potentially could be donating a slot of land. And so here's just an example of a hybrid skate park, pump track bike park that we could potentially design or do, just superimposed on his site photos there. So I'm just kind of flipping through some slides there. And so what we're asking for today, or proposing today, is that we can move forward and receive some design assistance funds so that we can do this next step, which is a community public engagement process with the skaters. We're currently doing that right now in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And here's an example of the online engagement webpage that we built. Traditionally, we were doing all of these face-to-face in person. But of course, right now, due to recent things in the world, we've moved everything online. And so here's an example of what that engagement process looks like. The Parks and Rec manager did a promo video, just casting the vision for the project. And then down below, we have some instructions with a survey asking individuals in the community, do you skate? Do you bike? Do you scooter? Do you mountain bike? What's your skill level? What's your age? How often do you do this? What are your wish list items? And just engaging them in that manner. And then here below, Las Cruces is just a slightly unique because they have an existing skate park. And so we've assessed that skate park and taken photos and are allowing the community members to vote on those specific components. But in your scenario, I'm going to flip over to another design contract that we have in Kauai. And so in this example, I just provided a list of features and components of what potentially skate park features or skate park could look like in that community. As far as, I heard you talking about, heads and beds and things like that. If we were to do a hybrid facility like this, half skate park, half pump track or bike park, and this black track is the pump track. And why they call that is once you are skating or biking through it, you don't have to kick, push, you don't have to pedal. You're kind of squatting and pumping through the track. That's why it's called a pump track. But if we were to do something similar to this, or similar to the photos that I showed on the local potential donated land, this would be the first of its type of facility in all the state of New Mexico. The closest hybrid facility like this pump track skate park would be Colorado, and then Arizona and Utah. And so I think that would have a big draw regionally and kind of be this destination type facility. Another thing is that 3 years ago, we started a Pump Track World Championship Series, and we invited Red Bull to be the title sponsor of that. And so we've done 2 of those World Series events, and we've designed and built every single one of those tracks. And then this year, we were planning to start a national series as well with a different title sponsor that would feed into that World Series. But having a pump track like this one here, or a facility similar to this, you would be eligible for a national or a World Series stop. And so just want to touch on that a little bit since we were talking about, tours and dollars and things like that. The last thing I was just going to mention is, not only is this timely with the Olympics right around the corner and the Red Bull Pump Track World Championship Series and some of these events that are popping up. But also a grant just went live yesterday in New Mexico, and it's the Economic Development Department. And they have an outdoor recreation division now that's brand new. And they just released a little bit of money to help with infrastructure funding. So there's also a grant that's out. I just got this link as I was sitting on this call. So I haven't had a chance to dive into all the details there, but there's also a little bit of grant funds as well to help with the infrastructure portion. But, that's kind of it in a nutshell, Virginia, that I'm thinking. Is there anything else that, any questions I can answer, or maybe anything that I missed that I can touch on?
Before we get to questions and answers, I did also want to mention, Josh was talking about grants, and that was one of the things they really had a hard time with. There are lots of grants available for them to continue with construction and, maintenance and other things that they do need, even national competitions. However, the one thing that's been holding them back is having that actual location. So that's why we're here today, is to present this to you, let you know we have support for the Rogers Park, just to begin with the big one, and hoping we can get the larger tax support to move on to an approval, or just people to go to council, so the council give us that final. And then, like I said, if we get that, they can move on to get the Tony Hawk grant, or these, EDC grants, or other grants that are available for the, or even for the competitions inside.
Josh, who do you represent?
I represent American Ramp Company. We design and build skate parks and bike parks.
Yeah, and Josh has come on. He's been brought through the skate park advocates. So if we do anything, it's going to be the city with the skate park advocates, and then the skate park advocates will have hired Josh and his company to do the design work.
Virginia, so there's a group of people. When I first got to Las Vegas 3 years ago, there's a group of people here that are very interested in this idea and would probably help fundraise for it. And I can make sure Ken, who has the music group, he has a group that's interested in funding a skate park. So, I mean, I can get you some of that information, Virginia. And as you know, we all here at the Lodgers Tax Board, we all skateboard. And you're looking, I mean, we're yawning a little bit now because we skateboarded this morning. But you need to put a skateboarder on this committee.
Nice. I also know, go ahead, Virginia.
Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
I was just going to comment that I also know in the past, I think when Bill and I had been chatting, I don't know if it's still the case, but in the past, the Kiwanis Club and the Rotary Club were also interested in helping fund the infrastructure of a new skate bike facility.
Yeah, so they have a lot of support, and they'll have a lot of support moving forward. We just need to get them past this first part.
So, what is the request? So, I mean, it's going to take a lot of support and a lot of funding from various people. This board has to connect it with tourism somehow. For the Riverwalk, we were making a stretch, so that's why I mentioned like we need at some point connect it to an event or the promotion of tourism. And the Riverwalk tends to do that in most places. We just need to promote it well. So as you said before, for the skate park, I think that's some of the things that came up with as we were trying to connect it to tourism. And if we do that well, then we have justifications for using lodgers tax dollars. But the bigger partner is going to have to be the city and supporters. So I mean, I would imagine this would go through community development. So if Bill's still here, if this is something that's of interest, we can get together and communicate on that, on what we're doing with the project.
Right. So this has been a topic of interest for 20 years already. And I don't know how much more topic of interest we can make.
How much? I don't know what we're approving. That's what.
Last year, we did go to Lodgers Tax Board, and it is in the minutes, and you guys did approve it. The only thing you said is you were going to table it until they got a location. And so now that they have a location, they came back to go back on the agenda for that approval or disapproval. Again, I'm not sure why it was put on for a presentation, because once something's tabled, it should go back for approval or disapproval. But however,
do you remember us approving, or we said we wanted to?
Minutes, and it was in 2008, beginning of 2019, because we talked about it for over a year at the lodgers tax meetings. And actually, Diane and Brian and Josh, I believe, had presented I
remember the presentation, and we said that we wanted to get more involvement from others, and we need to make and so now that I think the site was also a problem, but it looks like if that's solved and you got it donated, then we have another sequence. But
Well,
we still
Mr. Chair, this has been suggested by the city to include that out at Rodriguez Park. So, we have not, gone under contract or finalized any of that, because we're not even sure how much space or anything yet. So, yes, the concept has been found acceptable. And so we just need to, move forward. So it's got a lot of moving parts and it's got a lot of players.
Okay, so what are we approving for how much? I just need to know what.
So we're not on the agenda for approval or disapproval. Like I mentioned earlier, we're only on here.
Approval of disapproval of what? That's what I need to know.
I would like to, so what we would like to do is go forward for approval or disapproval of 14,400. I believe last time we presented it was around 15,000 or so, but this time I believe it's going to be around 14,500, Josh. I believe it's what the cost is. And that's for the plan and design and some of the things that Josh showed you that we'd be able to do with the community and things like that. And then also you were saying about the marketing. So this fits in perfectly with the state marketing as well. As you all know, I'm very caught up on state tourism as well. We communicate with them almost regularly. And so what their goal right now also is to promote these outdoor things, especially things for the youth. And so they have certain grants, like Josh pointed that one out, and they have several others that are dedicated just specifically for that. Especially now during the COVID, and not only that, but
that's fine, Brittany. I don't mean to interrupt you. That 14,600 that we're trying to get on the agenda, what's going to get accomplished with the 14,600?
Again, 14,500 is for the plan and design of the skate park, and it hasn't changed since the last presentation they did.
Yeah, and I can speak into that just a little bit more. So I think you can see a copy of the design service contract that we are proposing. It's 14,000 even, plus any type of travel costs, not to exceed an additional 1,500 if we are requiring, more face-to-face site visits and meetings and things like that. If not, if we're doing everything strictly online, it's just an even 14,000. What's included in that is we would engage the community and the skaters and bikers and do an assessment of their wants and needs, their wish lists, and come up with a custom design, skate park, bike park design that would fit at Rodriguez Park. And then we would provide a detailed cost breakdown of the construction of such a facility, as well as provide additional resources that really is what this group needs to seek other funds, to apply for a grant, to go to the Rotary Club or Kiwanis Club. We've been spinning wheels the last 5 years or so, and just hoping for a little bit of seed money to get the design done, because it's hard for people to donate unless they can see the vision or see the picture.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'm very much in favor of this, but it's not an action item.
No, that would be up to the Lodgers Tax Board and the staff to decide if it goes up for an action item or not.
All right. Is this something that I mean, look, we would, it's up for discussion. So,
I mean, I think this is Gabriel speaking. I mean, I really like anything to do with, the kids in the community having a place to go and do their BMX and their skateboarding and stuff. I think what Crew Tech just really wants to know, and I know this is just seed money to get things off the ground, but as a presentation for the largest tax meeting, I think we really want to know exactly how does this have an effect on our tourism. Will we have events here? If so, I think that should be part of the presentation.
Yes.
Like what kind of,
Right.
how are we going to get, people into town as this a destination for BMX or for skating and any sort of sport of that type, using this park with larger tax money?
Thank you, Gabriel. And I was trying to answer that earlier when Crew Tech answered, but I'm going to get the opportunity to. So what will happen is that it's going to align with the state objectives at this time, is which to use that. But the best part of it is that it is becoming so popular, especially now that it's going to be part of the Olympics. So if we build this, we're going to have that opportunity, like Josh said earlier. We'll have that opportunity to have these competitions, not only local and state and national, but depending on how much we can afford to, or I should say, how much the skate park advocates can afford to build onto this, or the city to help them. Maybe we can, be able to afford one that's going to be able to hold those national competitions, like he was saying, or international competitions. I mean, as far as tourism, we can make this, as big as we want, but of course, we do have to look at reality and see how big we can go. But as far as state tourism, we will, with even just a smaller one, be able to do those competitions, those statewide competitions, those local competitions. It'll be like if we had the softball tournaments back.
I have a question. We have, as far as like services and parks for our children throughout town, we don't have a single baby swing. We don't have a single updated playground equipment for any of our parks in town. And I think that's a big deterrent. And I think perhaps this is kind of a niche project that maybe the lodgers tax kind of goes out of our scope of what we'll be able to fund. I understand that it could potentially be like a tourist thing, but I personally would like to see if we had 14,000 towards a park that every child could enjoy. I mean, that's just a big one for me.
Yeah, and I understand that, but that part of it is, of course, the city and the council that deal with it. This is just a group of youngsters that started 20 years ago and had a goal for something, and they haven't stopped, and they're continuing to try for it. I'm sure there's another group and actually there is another group that's working on these parks. They got funding through legislation to do the one up at Tristan Circle. And as far as I know, they're working on several other parks in town. So, I mean, it's not just the skate park. There's other parks, and they are getting worked on. And if you have suggestions, I would suggest giving those to council, because that's what they're doing at this time. But Again, this is not a city project. This is the skate park advocates. We're just, as the city, asking to support them to get them started and off the ground. And then after that, they'll be using grants or whatever they use to make that happen. So we're just asking for the initial plan and divine money, and then it's up to them to move forward with all those grants and everything else, because it will be through the Skate Park Advocates Association.
Go ahead, Alan.
I agree, Virginia. And Josh, thank you for your input on this. This has been discussed for a long time. Maybe asked the right question. It's a tourism infrastructure question, right? We don't fund general projects. So that argument has to be made strongly. But I think the only way to make that argument is in the context of an action item. So I would ask, we think that we put this on the agenda and either vote it up or down for funding. And what I would suggest, if we decide to do that, Josh and Virginia, is to make sure that whatever is planned is something that you think has a reasonable chance of getting built. Because what we don't want to do is spend our precious money to find a $500 million project with no chance of getting built just because it looks good on paper. We want to think about the community and the objectives and where it can fit within our tourism plan.
Okay, we will have some feedback from Parks and Rec and those as well, because it's a team that's working together to make sure that we make this happen. Not just, myself, Josh, and Brian. City manager, Public Works, Parks and Rec, everybody will be involved with it.
Right. And so we need some solid feedback from them too. If we start the job, we need to have more, fundamental numbers and not just do that. We could do so. We got to get stronger on. All right, we'll spend this money. We'll do it. I mean, from a larger board perspective, each one of our board members. I mean, we're responsible for this money and that it's used in the right ways. So that's why we're trying to make the connection to tourism. So you guys have to make a stronger presentation on that connection, and it needs to be stronger in the way that it's not hypothetical. Like, hey, we could have a Northern American tournament here. That's a long way from here to there. So we need to make some solid things on what we can do after it's designed. And then we want to know, if we designed it, that there is backing. Lodgers Tax Board alone won't be able to build this park. So we need to know that the city is going to actually build it. Or the city is going to be behind, community development is going to be behind making this go forward. If not, then there needs to be an awful lot of volunteers with money ready to go to make this an actuality. So some of those things I would think would need to be part of the that presentation. As far as what we did earlier, like for example, the Riverwalk that we approved, we know the Riverwalk's not going anywhere. It's already existing. We're improving on existing infrastructure. So we're trying to make that leap to something new here, where, hey, this is a good investment. This is a good way to spend Lodgers Tax money to get this going. You did mention that we have an existing park that we built in 2005, but now it's broken down. Well, there's things that we didn't do, right? We didn't have a maintenance contract. We didn't build that in, or whoever was there at the time. Well, they're gone now. So now you have a broken down skate park. Those are the things that we kind of, want to know as we're going forward. And some of the same questions I asked for signs we have, approved for today. Yes, we approve it. We build it. Who maintains and who fixes it when it goes further down the road? So I will entertain a motion to put this on the next meeting, but I hope that
it's only for presentation, not for motion. Board member Alfaro did ask that you put it on the next agenda, but we can't vote on it.
Yeah, I want to vote just to put it on the agenda.
He gave direction. I mean, so if you just simply have to give me direction to put it on the next agenda.
Okay, we'll have a approval or disapproval on the agenda.
May I speak? This is Georgina. I have been following the skate park for the last 15 years, and the skate park is just another added activity, when people come to Las Vegas, they go to the lake, they go fishing, they go hiking. People will go bike riding, they'll go watch the birds, they'll go, do all these natural or out in the nature, they're outdoor activities. The skate park is part of that amenities. So the marketing is not going to be hard to add that to tie it into our largest tax. It is essential. It will provide activities for our youth first and our guests. Because when people come here, they're not just coming solo, they're bringing their children. Well, what are they going to have them do? There's activities for them to do. We can advertise. We've got a skate park. We got bike riding on the Riverwalk. You could go boating on the lake. You can go hiking. You can go bird watching. Multiple activities. The more activities you have outdoors for families to come, the more chances are that they will be looking at us as a destination, because if you have a family, you're going to want them to go out to a park. You're going to you don't want to put them in front of a TV 24/7. I mean, you're going to go stir crazy. So of course, this is an essential activity I see, and that's how I've always felt. I've seen skate parks all over the East Coast, Manhattan. When I go visit my young grandson, he'd take me to the skate parks all over Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, California, Texas. My granddaughter in Texas. I mean, it was just some outdoor activities.
And those places probably already also have nice playgrounds too. So
yeah, they did. They were right next to each other. But at the same time, it is the responsibility of our city council and our members and the mayors and the public to identify what are crucial for our families who live here full time. But, we also invite our guests, and guests come in with families too, wanting the same activities. The same pleasures that we get, they would like to enjoy too. So I'm really looking forward to having this on our agenda, because I've been waiting a long time for something like this for our youth. Thank you.
Chairman Bakta, I think that's a good idea for the next meeting then, if you're going to put this on the agenda, that we do invite Stephen Aragon, our Parks and Recreation Director, to attend.
I'd also like to have...
Can I interrupt for a second? We will have Brian here. We will have Stephen. We'll have Loretta, myself, and we will have Diana and Josh. All of us will be here.
Right. Maybe Bill can also make a presentation on how he feels I think it's part of community development, a good portion of it. So yes, lodger's tax will help seed the plans if that's the decision we make, and we'll feel comfortable with connecting with tourism. But ultimately, my main question will be, is there backing by a major entity? And so I'd want a presentation by Bill saying, look, this is something we'd like to do, so we can recommend that to council. So that I'd like that presentation as well. If there's other priorities, then we need to know that as well. But I need to know what the perspective is from the city on this project.
Well, Mr. Chairman, as I said, we've already had some preliminary discussions, and we like the idea. And Rodriguez Park has the space in which it could accommodate that, plus future plans for other sports-related fields, more ball fields, soccer fields, and that type of thing. What we haven't done is really just sat down as the city and say, let's gung-ho, let's go forward with this, and this is exactly where it's going to go. Those decisions haven't been made yet. And so I agree. I wanted this presentation be made again. Of course, obviously, I haven't been involved in it in 3 years, Josh? And so it's been a long time for me, and other people on the board may have never even heard of this concept. So I think this is a good place for us to take a deep breath. Let's get with the city to make a final determination that, yes, this is what we want to do. If the plan is good and we can go forward, because obviously a lot of things have to happen before we put a shovel in the ground at Rodriguez Park, right? So, but it's important that we're all in agreement that what direction that we're headed in on this. And
Right.
so,
We just want to know if it's part of, we just want to know if it's part of the planning. So it needs to go from a what if, because it all gets a lot easier if we say, you know what, part of the master plan is a skate park, a park. And so that gets easier when that's done. Those are some solid things. So we know that we're just not approving something and then we sit on the plans for 20 years. Those are the kind of.
I think one of the things that we need to decide is, because one of the hardest things to come up with is planning monies. Construction monies are a lot easier to come by if you have a plan. And so, I think, we can make decisions dependent on other decisions. So if the city can go forward and say, hey, here's your designated spot. If lodgers tax can come up with the monies for the plans, getting construction money later on, whoever does it, whether it's the city or it's the skate park advocates that do it, is neither here nor there right at this point. So that's my feeling on it. I agree that, the city's got to play their role, and the lodgers tax, if has got to play their role in the plans. And I think probably Josh, you could probably come up with the info on the tourist side of stuff. What type of events that could be held at a particular style park, like we're trying to decide here. What can that bring into a community? It's just like having little league tournaments and softball tournaments. They can bring in hundreds of people. That's heads and beds. That's money.
Right. That's what was brought up before during one of the prior presentations. That's the biggest connection I can make is with Rodriguez Parks itself. Is that yes, when we did have, and we kind of left that on it recently, but when we did have those little league tournaments, that did bring families to town. And if we can make that same connection with the park, then that makes sense. So those families coming to town for Little League, they stayed in Las Vegas, they ate at the restaurants in Las Vegas, they filled up gas in Las Vegas, and so on. If we can make that connection, so Little League is something that we see all the kids, and then I could see at the hotel when those tournaments happen. So yeah, part of the presentation is how do we make it turning that, yeah, we can have this to, my concern is, do we have a bit more information on if we do build it, that this is something realistic, right? Like we built the park and are there the players, are all the teams, is this going to show up? Or is it more of we're going to have to take that leap? But there's a lot of questions between if we build this, then eventually the tournaments will show up and we'll make that connection back to tourism and lodgers tax.
So I'm a big film person. And it's always said, if you build it, they will come. Just
okay. Yeah, I was going to make that connection with the ballparks, but you got it. All right. So maybe we can have that. If we can gather more information on it, I think we're headed in that direction. If we can fill in some of these spaces there, so I'm not opposed to this being on the next agenda. I mean, look. Well, when Wid is able, maybe he can tell me, but this is something that could have been put in with the EDA grant. I guess maybe Bill. Wid?
I think we lost Wid. Oh, there he is.
Wid, we lost you on the skate park plans. Was there something that we could have put in the EDA here?
Am I on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes, it could have gone on in the past, and depending on when the application is submitted, it could be added at the next meeting.
Okay. All right.
But it's tourist-related infrastructure, so.
So
it would work.
you would have no problems qualifying it in that realm, right? For EDA.
I would be out there watching those crazy kids looping in the air.
Okay, I mean, and so that makes things, having that bit of information makes things a lot easier as well. So I don't see why it couldn't be on the agenda. If we have more presentations to make, let's do it. But if it's something that we can take action on, let's make sure that we can have it as an actionable item so we can execute on it.
And I'll try to work. I'll work with the city and make sure that we're in agreement on Rodriguez.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that we get everybody in, and thank you for the presentation today, guys. And I'm hoping that, because if you look at the 10-year plan for the city, in that part of it was to provide something for the kids. So I'm hoping that, because they're doing the new 10-year plan, that this is the last thing from that 10-year plan that we can accomplish.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody agrees.
That would be great. As long as it's in our overall plan, and that's what I would like to see as well. So that would be something good. And I didn't want to discount what Shauna was saying. I mean, I agree with her as well. So I hope it's part of an overall Parks and Recs plan that we're maintaining our parks, that it's accessible to everyone. Because right now I do see broken down things that we should be maintaining. So I think if there's any part of our recommendation where I could push that, look, whatever we do as ongoing, that it can't just be about designing and making the park. It needs to be how the park's going to be 10, 15 years down the road, how we're all going to enjoy it further down, how accessible things are. So yes, this would be a seat for a new event or a new park, but we need to know that the city and anyone else is going to be in it with everyone and continue to maintain these things so they're not broken down 15 years later. All right, so I think we made it clear that we'd like this on the next agenda. Is there any other discussion on this item?
No, but I do want to thank Virginia and anybody else that was part of that skate park for keeping it alive, because it is essential. You go to any big city anywhere in the United States and abroad, you're going to have skate parks. Brazil, South America, everywhere, there's skate parks. My grandson is a big skater, and he's showing me skate parks all over the place. So it is something that, like, it's essential. Like, hiking, biking, it is an activity that is outdoors, and it's mostly for the youth, but there are a lot of older folks that are much healthier than us that are on skateboards, and I really give them props for that. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So
we have nothing in new and other business.
Okay. So I just had a few things, but I think we discussed it already in the finance. So we made that clear about the chamber taking on the visitor center. I think some questions that was approached by a few people. I guess some questions is going to be, and maybe it's because it's been off and on during COVID and how it's been with the city. But if the chamber can at some point clarify the hours, just the details, who's manning it, what's happening with that. I know you guys have drawn up a contract, but people have been asking about the details of how the visitors center is going to work with the chamber. So at some point, I think we need to address that, because I know people have been asking about that.
I can talk to you about that right now. Just give you a couple minutes. So they're going to have a director in there that's working Monday through Friday, and so they'll be pulling some of the visitor center duties that would occur if they're not, of course, obviously they'll be leaving and doing work out in the field, let's say. They're also going to be getting volunteers to man the visitor center. We haven't worked out all the logistics on that, but I want them covered on the weekends, which is usually what's left, unmanned. So, between their director and volunteers, we're going to be covering as much as we can.
So was it just easier to hire it out? Because I guess some of the concerns what we'd like to see is that I guess if it's volunteers, but we need to know that they're properly trained, so they know the town well when they make the presentation, which has good information, and so we need to make sure that whoever's there is trained and knows the specifics of the town and how to direct them and basically communicate in a fashion.
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean that goes without saying that that's going to occur. Our locals are probably very up on what's in town and so forth. One of the things you want to think about, though, that when we have a city employee working anywhere, you're paying for more than his salary. You're paying for retirement, you're paying for health, you're paying for vacation, you're paying for sick leave. And so, that is coming out of your lodger's tax funding. So with this idea, we've got a nonprofit that's running it, and they're running it basically at cost. And if they can, with the concept of volunteers, we already have several folks that want to volunteer and work there. That is basically community free labor. So overall, I think we're getting and you got people that are very interested in doing that job. They're involved in the community.
Bill, can I say something? Jan Burskins and I talked about this, and she's on the board of CCHP, and we want to train the people. I've been working the weekends because that's my quiet time, but I've been doing tours on the weekends too. So we're happy to, Main Street and CCHP are happy to set up a training or help set up a training for whoever these people are, the volunteers.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that goes a long way. I know those are some of the concerns, and there's some of the times where if this, hopefully this leads to an overall improvement, and by moving out of in-house. So just some of those specifics is just what we needed to know. So that goes a long way in people knowing about the visitors center there. So if they can make, I don't know, have they already made a presentation saying this is what the chamber is doing, and this is what they will be doing, and this is how it works?
We just got their contract agreed to, and so we're just getting started.
Okay. All right, that was it for me on new in other business. I think we had one item, but I guess we're gonna leave that alone. But if we wanted to visit our reserve again, and if everything is stable and we know what we have, if that's something we need to address, then we can. But we can address that in the October meeting. It looks like we're set with what we've approved here now, but we may want to look at that again for if we have something going for the skate park. Again, if we don't have this approved now, I'm not sure how the skate park plans will get into with ZDA. So I guess maybe you can discuss, and maybe the board, if it's something that we really want to do, can entertain or somehow fit it in. But again, that would have to go to council and so on as well. So maybe that can be discussed. I know maybe Virginia and Bill, and both you guys can strategize on how we can shoe this into to the EDA grant still, and that we can approve it. If not, then we can give that recommendation, and maybe if we don't even approve it as a board, but maybe council can take it up on their own if there's a strong statement there for this being done, and so that this can get to the EDA. All right. It looks like that is it. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
Have to read the first.
Oh, God, okay. I make a motion that,
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right. Roll call.
Gabriel Garcia,
Aye.
Shauna Sandoval,
Yes.
Virginia Ortega Onhen,
yes.
and Alan Lee.
You have to leave early. All right. Meeting adjourned. See you guys next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, we turned it off.